President Trump is expected to address the coronavirus pandemic in his acceptance speech tonight, touting his management of the crisis. It's one that has been marked by mixed messaging. The president has repeatedly said the virus will go away, despite an increasing number of cases. He also shunned masks, only to start wearing them in public last month. Just today, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention created its own confusion after clarifying revised testing guidelines. More than 180,000 people in the U.S. have died from the virus. The United States ranks fourth globally in the highest number of deaths per 100,000 people. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. The pandemic has also created confusion online, and a baseless conspiracy theory has played a role in that. QAnon originally gained traction on the website 8chan. The site's creator expressed concerns about QAnon at the start of the pandemic in an interview with our Dan Patterson.
So now that this big natural disaster is happening, it's really kind of energizing them and motivating. Because in the months prior to the coronavirus crisis, things were not going well for the Q community. And really, they had everything riding on Donald Trump being reelected.
CNET senior producer Dan Patterson joins me now. He's been reporting on QAnon for us all week and its intersection with politics. Hi there, Dan. So tell us more about the man we just heard from, Fred Brennan. How is he connected to QAnon, and what's his biggest concern?
Fred Brennan is the founder of the website 8chan. QAnon originated on a very similar site called 4chan. Now, these probably sound like obscure internet forums, and that's because they are. Much like we have kind of funny internet speak on mainstream sites like Twitter and Facebook, there is a language of 8chan and 4chan that is unique to these sites because all users on those sites are inherently anonymous. There is no login, there is no password, but there is something called a trip code. This trip code can be used to identify you. So I can enter in a series of digits, and this digits, if I enter it in every time, will say, okay, the same person is posting the same messages. This is how the Q in QAnon began. Q came from an alleged Department of Energy person who had access to nuclear code. So you combine those two words and you have this meme, this human meme that started on 8chan and 4chan. Now, again, these sound like kind of obscure internet forums, but what has happened over the last 18 to 24 months is that the group has really metastasized, and it has gone from being underground, and you heard Fred describe there, to pretty mainstream. It has jumped across the social web from 4chan and into Facebook, Twitter, Discord, and other platforms. In fact, Facebook recently cut down on 790 different groups of QAnon users. Twitter did something very recently. So to answer your question there, Elaine, Fred has a number of fears and concerns when it comes to QAnon, but I think maybe one of his biggest is that this group is A, potentially very violent, and B, that they amplify disinformation related to a number of political conspiracies, but also coronavirus conspiracies, and that this amplification of disinformation and misinformation could potentially have cost lives. And as we see this group continue to grow, there's really no way to stop an idea, and so there's really no end in sight for conspiracy groups like this.
Well, in that interview, Brennan also spoke about the misinformation and disinformation QAnon is spreading online. What is the difference between those two terms, and why does that matter?
So it matters because misinformation is like a rumor. It's something that maybe I misheard about the weather tomorrow, or I'm passing along gossip about somebody. Disinformation is an organized and coordinated campaign. So I also spoke with a gentleman by the name of Chris Boozy, who runs a website called Bot Sentinel. Now, Bot Sentinel tracks the data around Twitter accounts and inauthentic Twitter accounts. Now, Chris contends, as well as a number of others, that a large swath of QAnon followers are not just humans. Many are, but a number of them, according to Chris, are not. and that these are what we call bots and sock puppets. Now, bots are automated pieces of software that run on social media and other sites and kind of follow a pre-rehearsed script. A sock puppet is a account that you or I may make, but is not our name. We use it for the purposes of maybe trolling or other poor behavior. Chris contends, and I spoke with another person at a very large internet firm earlier today, that Russia's GRU and IRA is involved with bots and sock puppets amplifying QAnon, and particularly QAnon disinformation regarding the election, mail-in voting, and the coronavirus.
All right, Dan Patterson for us. Dan, thank you very much.
Great to see you.